Welcome. Hi, my name is Jessica Meraz, and let's get started with our conversation tonight. Do you want to give it a whirl? You want to start off? We're going to start just by introducing ourselves really quickly.
My name's Kelley James. Grew up in Northern California, live in Los Angeles, and was introduced to UGP through a mutual friend of Mac and myself, and we connected, and he told me the concept, and I was pretty blown away just at everything that he was saying. But when I actually saw it for myself in person, specifically speaking about the LA location, which is similar to this in many ways, but you guys have done an absolutely incredible job with this one, I just will say. And I honestly didn't really know what to think as, a former athlete. I play music as a career. I love analytics. I love practicing. I love everything that involves deeply immersing yourself in any kind of pursuit, and was exposed to UGP and was absolutely blown away. My experience has been awesome. I started as a 20 handicap down to 11 now. My goal is to be that. Oh, thank you. I like that. My goal is to beat Mac just like Blake did a couple weeks ago. We'll get into that later. But musician, play 100 shows a year. I play about 12 or 13 PGA Tour events a year. A lot of music around the tour, different brands and different sponsors, and love the game of golf. Really enjoy every aspect of it. And for me personally, being here around people that share the same passion is always pretty invigorating. And Mac has opened up my mind to different elements of the game that I was previously unaware of, not having ever really played competitive golf. So to me, UGP is a very special place, and the experience is one that I haven't seen anywhere else. And I'd like to think I've seen a lot of things in golf. So congratulations to you guys 100%. And I just wanted to also give a quick round of applause to the staff back there. Thank you guys for all your hard work. Really appreciate it.
My name's Jessica Meraz. I am an actress in LA, and I know nothing about golf. But I am here because I'm friends with Mackenzie. We've actually been friends since we were little kids. We grew up together in El Paso, Texas, down the block from each other since we were 5 years old, and have been in school together since pre-K, elementary, middle school, high school. And neither of us has changed at all. And we're here to have a conversation with you guys, give you access to Mackenzie and to Blake, and to let you guys ask them questions, yes, about golf or anything that kind of strikes your fancy, to give you access. Hoping to have these conversations. And you know Mackenzie. He is the founder and CEO of UGP. He started playing golf as a kid and played in high school, also as a kid in high school and in college and professionally. And then years ago, when he saw that there was a real void as far as innovation in training and in the use of any kind of technological advances, he found that he wanted to start something different, and with just $50,000 and a vision and a lot of grit and a young family, he started UGP. And just 6 years later, here he is opening up his second location. I'm really proud of him. And then we have Blake, also, who with just a small amount of money started his Tom's Shoes. We all know him for Tom's Shoes. He's also native Texan, like us. Yeah, I think a lot in the crowd too. He's the founder and the chief shoe giver of Tom's. He's also behind the One for One idea in this social conscious entrepreneurship. He's provided over 80 million shoes to children since 2006. He also has Tom's Eyewear, Tom's Roasting Company, Tom's Bag Collection, and he's also helped provide safe birth services for over 25,000 mothers. He was named one of 40 under 40 in Fortune magazine, and written a book, Start Something That Matters, a New York Times bestseller. So welcome to our discussion. We want to make sure that you guys feel like you can ask any questions if something pops up. Feel free to jump in at any time. And let's start with Blake. Blake, how did you meet Mac, and how did you first come to find UGP?
Sure. Well, thanks for having me, and this is my first time to come down to the new location. So, Mac, congratulations, and to all the UGP staff. You guys have really taken the original vision and location in Los Angeles and taken everything up a notch here. And so I'm a little bit jealous that this location is so pristine and so dialed in. But I will continue love going to our location on Sepulveda in LA, where we first met. So I think it was about three and a half years ago now. A friend of mine had come to UGP, knows that I love golf, and said, "Man, you have to go check this place out." And I was pretty busy with work at the time, and I kept putting it off. And so then he, for my 40th birthday, gave me a putter fitting at UGP. And he said, I paid for this, you have to go now and do it. So that was a really good strategy, because I went. I love putting, it's a favorite part of my game, and if this putter was going to help me make more putts, then I was in. So I went and did a great putting with Kevin, who's around here somewhere, and did a great fitting, and then I just like never left. Like I went from putter fitting to club assessment to workout with Leo. Like 6 hours later, I was still at UGP. I mean, I'm not kidding. Like I was just like, this is the coolest place ever. I mean, I'm just geeking out over everything. And then like the next week I went back, and then I went back, and I kept going. And I don't even think I met Mac the first few times that I was there. And I was just totally fascinated by this idea of having all of the kind of services that a professional player or a top college player would have in a location for amateurs. I played college tennis. I was very competitive growing up, and I, one of the things I love about golf is it gives you that chance to get those competitive juices flowing again, and to get to train like I did when I was a college tennis player, but as an amateur golfer, was just really cool. And so that's what got me really excited about the concept. And then I met Mac and got to hear more about his vision and his story and what he wanted to do with UGP, and I was really impressed. And I've been incredibly blessed over the past 12 years with Tom's, and really the past 20-something years of being an entrepreneur, to have amazing mentors. I think that's a huge reason I've had some success, is that people have taken me under their wing and really helped guide me, especially in my early days of starting businesses. And so as I've had some success with Tom's, one of my goals is to be a good mentor to young entrepreneurs. And so I saw in Mac, someone who's very hungry, had a lot of grit, as you said, Jessica, and had a great vision for something that I thought could really make a difference in golf. And so I invited Mac to start meeting with me to talk about his business and his vision. And the more we met, the more excited I got about helping Mac and helping UGP grow. And so over a period of time, what ultimately led to a decision to make a big investment in UGP. And I was really excited to do that, because I really think that UGP can change the way that golf is taught and also increase all of our enjoyment in learning golf. But most of the things that I'm spending my time and investing in these days, I kind of have a prerequisite that it needs to have a social benefit. It needs to have a strong component to giving back. And while definitely UGP is giving back to all of us golfers, they're lowering our handicaps, I also wanted to see if there was a way to kind of increase the social mission. And so what I decided ultimately to do was I bought 45% of UGP a little over a year ago, and then the next day I gave all the shares to the First Tee organization. And so this way now the First Tee is a partner with Mac as much as I am, and my goal and kind of dream for UGP is it will be someday in every city all around the world and be incredibly profitable and successful, and therefore the First Tee will be the beneficiary. So that's my long story, but it's one that I really love telling, because this has been an awesome journey with UGP and Mac thus far.
Yeah, lovely. You mentioned the First Tee organization. How did you first find them, and what is it exactly that they do?
Well, how many people here know the First Tee, just so I know who in the audience? Okay, so
wow.
Okay, all those people, say. Golfers. So I'm not going to talk too much, because you probably share my passion for it. I've been very fortunate to get to play in some First Tee golf tournaments. I've met many of the amazing First Tee kids. And the thing that Kelly and I were talking about before this evening started is the best thing about the First Tee kids is like they can recite the core values that they've learned and how they apply their life, like just is as easy as if you were asking them what street they live on. And I think that's amazing because, you know, there's so many amazing youth organizations that mentor and help kids who are potentially struggling or in difficult homes or environments. But to use the game of golf to do that is something that is just really spoken to me. And so I've known for a long time that I really wanted to make a significant gift to the First Tee, but I'm really happy that we've been able to do it in this kind of entrepreneurial way with UGP.
What principles do you think that these kids can learn through golf that they can't learn through a different kind of sport or extracurricular activity or band? What is it about golf?
Well, I mean, I think that, you know, golf teaches you so many aspects of life. I mean, it's a sport that you have to keep score yourself. You have to be accountable for your own practice. It's very much an individual sport, but you're playing in a social setting. So you have to be able to, I mean, you learn how to grow up very quickly in golf. I think that's what's interesting about it. You know, from when you're 8 years old, 10 years old, if you're out there playing, you can play with people that are 40, 50, 60. And there's very few sports that provide that experience. I mean, it's crazy in that way. So I think a lot of these First Tee kids, we were talking about that earlier, they learn to shake hands and look people in the eye, and that are far older than them, accomplished and everything else like that. And it builds confidence. It builds security in themselves. And I think that's a really strong value that's hard to find in other sports. You know.
I think I mentioned this while we were in back that in golf, if you have a certain hardship, some kind of failure right away in the sport, you have to try to overcome it so it doesn't affect the rest of your game or your next shot. Can you tell us about a hardship or struggle in your businesses or your life that you had and maybe had to overcome right away? How you did that, whether in business or otherwise?
Business hardship? No.
This goes to both of you.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I guess there was just so many in starting the business, obviously, just like any business, you know, you think you got it and then you don't, and then you got it and then you don't.
Just like golf. I mean, how many people here have made a double bogey after making a birdie? Raise your hand. And then gone on to make another birdie.
Never have to hit another golf ball again, I figured it out. But, you know, it was just, it's been a constant process of that. But I'd say more than anything else, it's just, you know, again, I think Blake, you know, made a comment about the team back there and the team in the crowd. I just like look back there and I'm just like pumped. Like, you guys are amazing, and the reason that any of this is possible, and honestly, like relative to the business, my biggest accomplishment is having a team of people that are working together on a common goal. And so, you know, roadblocks or difficulties have been mostly in this business, although there's been so many in city planning and you know, and construction and you know, taxes. I mean, so many things you have no idea about that you have to learn quickly. But the hardest learning lessons have been with the people that you work with the personnel, and the amount of, you know, energy that you pour into them, and the amount of love that you want to provide, and balancing that with a family, and trying to help them grow as individuals, and seeing those not work out, but then get up with the same renewed energy every day to do it again, even though you know it's gonna fail, or you know it's gonna have its shortcomings, or you know that people are gonna leave you. I think over the last 6 years in building the company, I've probably gone through maybe 75 to 80 employees, and we have 30. So that's like 50 people, whether it was 6 weeks or 6 months or 3 years, that you really got close with and cared about, that no longer work with you, and typically you don't typically have a relationship after that. So it's a lot of heartache and a lot of ups and downs. And I think relating to golf and the shortcomings in golf and the heartache is that I put up a lot of rounds in the 80s, and you got to.
Some people, that'd be really exciting right here. Like, I don't know who the audience is on that comment.
I was like, congratulations, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm wishing for that my whole life.
Tell us more about your hardships.
Yeah. And then relative to what your expectations are, you get up again and you put in the effort every day. And I think that's what's been the key to success so far, and the key to building the business. And seeing the team back there is like a refined version of everyone that's been through this business. Same as the customer base, and it's just like the member base. It's a refined experience. It's a refined version, because you get up every day with the renewed energy, learning from what you went through yesterday. And I think that's the same in golf. And I applied a lot of that in golf to building this business and going through it, and realizing that, as long as you learned what happened yesterday, you can get up again and put in a better effort.
That's great. Let's give Mac a round. I think as Mac was just speaking about like the analogies of golf and sometimes the hardships, and kind of having a double bogey on the first hole, and then trying to get things going after that, and not letting it ruin your whole day or your whole round or your whole tournament. I mean, it's the same in business. I mean, there were definitely times in the early days of Tom's where myself and none of the original people that worked on Tom's had any experience in the shoe business. We had a real passion to help kids, and we thought we had an innovative idea and a way to do so, but we still had to make good quality shoes, and that was really hard to do, especially as we started to scale. So there were many times that we had kind of disasters when it came to shoes not fitting right, or not getting there on time, and all this, and it's like Max said, you just kind of gotta get up every day and try to make the best that you can, and I think that's what we did, and if you do that for long enough, then I think the universe rewards you, and I think that's the same with the great game of golf. It's like if you put in the time and you have the right guide coaching you, because you can also put a lot of time in and even get worse. But if you have the right coach and you have the right attitude, it's the same as in business. I think ultimately you're going to end in success. And I'll tie that back to why I love this place again so much, is that with the technology that Mac and UGP have invested in, it doesn't lie. Like it tells you exactly what is wrong, or why you're not getting the result you want from a certain swing or from a certain way of swinging. And when you have that technology, and if you listen to it and you allow the coaches to help you with it, you really can improve your game and improve it pretty rapidly. So I think that's one of the things that I love about it here.
Yeah, Mac, would you mind touching on just some of the stats? Obviously, the UCLA men's golf team stat is pretty impressive, and then we have a pro golfer here, Mr. TJ Vogel, wherever you went, by the bar somewhere back there. TJ has had an unbelievable story so far. Last season, Mac, I'll let you touch on that, but obviously taking exactly what Blake said about really having a guide to getting better, which is really this place is about getting better.
Yeah.
And I think there's some really great highlights and stories, obviously, with UCLA and TJ that I found to be very, very interesting.
Well, just to be clear, TJ was good at golf before he came to UGP. He won the Mid-Am. He won the USGA Mid-Am. The Pub Links, sorry. He won the Pub Links, played in the Masters. An amazing golfer, played for USC. Just came into UGP and started training with us and going through the fitness training, and really in a lot of ways being absorbed into the community that we've created here. We treat him like a brother when he comes in, and we really we're all behind his success. We all are watching his stats. Everybody, like, I got Tiger Woods and TJ Vogel as my two guys on the PGA Tour app. But TJ Monday qualified, which is an incredibly difficult grind on the PGA Tour. He Monday qualified 8 times on the PGA Tour this last year. He beat Patrick Reed's record, that was 6, I think, right? And just ridiculous. Yeah. You gotta go low to do that. I mean, it's not, it's you're showing up, and you're not typically like getting a practice round. You're tired. You're not staying at the Ritz-Carlton, and you're just rolling out and getting it done. And TJ's amazing at that. I think he made 4 cuts out of those 8. Is that right? Just honestly, one of the better players on the professional golf circuits. It's just a matter of time before he sustains a career on the PGA Tour. I truly believe it. He's not that old. He's maybe in his mid-20s. So, but it's exciting to see like the possibility of what he's been able to do. And I think a lot of that is the fitness training has been pretty crucial. I think to that to being on the road like that and traveling. That's really hard to be on planes and showing up and just teeing off like that. I know I have to like do a lot of stretching now to just get through, like just thin it down the first hole and get going. Brandon, you know what I'm talking about. So, but but TJ had trained with us probably like 2 to 4 times a week when he's in town, and then he gets out there and he puts it in. So it's been really cool to see him sustain that. I think like I said, he was already a good player before he came in, but I think it's been a big part of why he's been able to sustain a really good year and break those records. And so the training program does work. And then the UCLA men's golf team is a really interesting story. Not to have the USC and the UCLA battle, but just the way that it is.
I'm a Trojan too.
But the UCLA men's golf team, the head coach, Derek Freeman, came in to see me a year and a half ago or something like that. And he's like, I'm in shambles. The team's in a bad spot. We're 123rd in the country. We've never, we won a national championship 10 years ago. And we are in a really, we don't, like, the team has no culture. We're fragmented. We don't know where we're heading. And I was like, man, I can't believe this guy's telling me all this stuff. And so I was just like, I'm just a struggling entrepreneur out here, like, just trying to figure out how to get 20 handicaps down to 5s. And so he's like,
you can figure that out. We can make a lot more money than we're doing now.
We're already
20 to 5.
We're gonna talk about how you were shooting the mid 80s and then beat me. All right, so that's fine.
You can keep talking about how bad UCLA is. But just give it another couple more minutes on that. We'll get back to that.
So Derek took me on campus, and I just said, show me what your resources are. He's like, the kids are complaining about, that they don't have priority tee times at Bel Air, and it's like,
Oh my God, that's so.
no, this is serious. He's like, I don't know what to do with these kids. They're just like, they're these top recruits I'm bringing in from around the country, and they're complaining about that they got to go to Wilshire, and they don't get, the silver spoon treatment, and I don't know what to do. They're unruly, and they're transferring schools, and the team's not in a good spot. And when you're not winning, typically too, things get even worse. So they were 123rd in the country. They hadn't won in 3 years, and this is 5-6 years after they'd won a national championship with Kevin Chappell. And so he's like, I don't know what to do, and so he was like, can you help? And I was like, yeah, I saw kind of an opportunity there. Subsidized, pretty much gave them $50,000 to $70,000 worth of training in a year for 10% of the cost. And I just was like, this will be a really cool experiment. And I got with Leo, who's our director of performance, who's an awesome, coach, trainer, and a leader in our organization. And I said, what do you think about this project? And he's like, let's take it on. And so we coordinated a schedule with them 3 times a week to come and train with us. And they would show up at 6 a.m. and these kids were, I have the first picture of them like showing up. They were like grumpy and mad that like the coach was making them do it, and they just were like, I'm transferring to Fresno State, fuck this. So we started the program, and that in that year they won their first tournament in 3 years. They won by 20, and they finished second place 3 times. And they got to, I think, top like 15 in the country in their first year.
Wow, that's amazing.
And so it's really cool to see that program transform. And and going into this next year, we're training with them. We renewed the contract. We're amplifying the experience for them, and now we're chasing the national championship with them.
More than 10%, right?
So yeah, it's still 10%. It's still the same. I know. It is what it is.
What void?
They don't have money at that school.
I'm curious as to what void you saw in the training 6 years ago when you started the company, and what you see in maybe the next 5-6 years that you could bring into the company.
Can you say that again? What do you?
So as far as the technology or the physical training aspects of it, what was missing 6 years ago that you're now offering to these UCLA students or to the members, and what do you maybe see coming in the next 5 or 6 years?
I really don't think that you know, it's so, the technology's evolved a lot, that's for sure. There's no doubt about that. I mean, in terms of tracking, we're learning about it as we go along. I don't know if you saw the new feature on the iPhone now that tells you your screen time, and it's telling you, hey, slow down, you were on that thing like 8 hours last week. But this change, we're learning to adapt to technology every day. So the golf industry is the same as anything else. And we're learning, like we don't really know. I mean, this TrackMan's tracking what's going on when you hit a golf ball, and cameras have been around in video analysis since probably like, I think you can get old Ben Hogan, you can get old Bobby Jones videos of his swing sequence. So we've been using cameras for a really long time in golf instruction, but this whole tracking the golf ball and tracking the club is relatively new. And we're just thinking a little bit, we're learning how to adapt it to training technology and integrating it with the approach. But, you know, tracking stats and you know, modern fitness principles, I mean, I look at these old books and I look at what people have been doing for a long time in golf performance, and we've been playing good golf for a long time at a high level. You know, the records show it, you know, the techniques and the systems are there. But I think what technology allows us to do is sort of kind of piece apart what's nonsense or bullshit and what isn't. And I think that's what allows us to do in a lot of ways as regular consumers. And today, you know, with the internet, there's so much stuff that comes up, but we can actually start to tease apart, like, okay, here's stuff that actually works, and here's stuff that's just fodder. And that's what I think is really nice about technology. But I don't think we're really inventing anything new. I think we're just refining what already was there. And I think that's what I tell a lot of the staff. And our logo, you know, has 3 parts to it: in the crest and tradition, the U and a universal approach to golf instruction, and the line for efficiency. And the tradition is saying, and I always tell the staff this, is like, we're not inventing anything new. We're just literally studying the history and the past, and we're making the best version of the future. And I think that's the key to success and performance.
That's great. I would also add, you make it a lot of fun. Like for those who are members who've been coming to UGP, like it just makes practicing golf and learning golf more fun when you do it in an environment like this. You don't feel like you're just alone on the range, just grinding out. You have a community of people, and the technology is fun to engage with. So that's something I appreciate about UGP.
Can you talk a little bit about the differences between the LA location and the OC location? You don't want to.
There's just like 7 lanes for 2 cars here, you know. So it's you know you're squeezing past a bunch of cars parallel parked on Sepulveda. So it's but yeah, I mean the difference, you know, the main difference I'd say is that in LA we were talking a lot about it, you know, now showing like this location. It's just it was very much built brick by brick. It took us 5 to 6 years to build the location. There was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears when Blake invested. It had just gotten done, really. We had put together 10,000 square feet over 6 years from a $50,000 investment. So that's not a very pretty process. It's a very gritty process, like you said earlier. It was messy. It was complicated, and you can feel it almost in a way. Like, wow, this was kind of. I think Blake even said it, like one of his first times we met. He's like, it feels hand painted.
In a good way. A lot of love.
And we built this in 2 months. So you know, we did quite a bit of planning, but the actual process from when we broke ground took us 60 days. And so we knew what products and materials and experience we wanted to provide, and we just laid it out there. So I'd say that's the biggest difference, is just that there's fresh paint here, and we sprayed it and didn't hand paint it, I guess.
Blake, you talked earlier about mentorship, and obviously you guys have an incredible relationship. What you've built already and what you're continuing to build is extraordinary. The future looks so bright for UGP. Doing a little bit of background on you, there was something that really stuck out to me, and I think it relates to golf in many ways, and it just really hits dead on getting better. Where you talked about how journaling was so important for you at the beginning of your journey as an entrepreneur, as you progressed, and just getting better on a consistent basis. Would you mind just touching on that and kind of giving your experience of journaling and overall searching for that piece and those little catalysts that get you better in life?
Sure. I started journaling like when I was like 15 years old. I was an avid tennis player, played college tennis, and for me, one of my early tennis coaches recommended journaling as a way to really track progress, kind of reflect on why you won matches, why you lost matches. And it was something that, as a 15-year-old was kind of a little bit odd how much I journaled, but I did it a lot. And then as I became an entrepreneur when I was 19, I continued to do the practice. And now it's probably the single most consistent thing in my life is journaling almost every day. And the thing I love about it is it helps you reflect on, kind of, it takes you out of your own head a little bit and kind of allows you to look at, what you're experiencing in your life, whether it's personal or professional, with a little bit more perspective. And it also allows you to go back and read a journal from a year or two ago and say, oh, I thought the world was ending, and it actually was not. And so it gives you more confidence that the next time you're dealing with a road bump in your business or in your personal life, like you can get through it because you got through it before, so it instills confidence and faith. And it's something that I love doing. And I think as it relates to golf, and especially in mentoring Mac, and I have journal entries from the first time I met Mac to different discussions we've had in the years since then. And with golf, it's like it's really hard to know where you're going if you can't articulate it on a piece of paper. And so, we do a lot of exercises now with really articulating, like, what is the vision for UGP? What's the vision for each of our members, customer journey? Because when anyone starts with UGP, they're at there's a very specific point in their golf life where they are. And one of the things that our coaches and Mac and I asked them is, like, where do you want to go? Like, you just want to come up here and have fun and bang balls? Or do you want to, win your flight in your club championship? Or do you want to qualify for this tournament? Or do you, just want to take your buddy's money? What's your goal? And if you can't articulate that and then write it down, it's really hard to track against it. So it's something that I think has helped my life in so many different ways. Something that Mac and I do in our relationship, always documenting, what our goals are when we meet, each quarter to kind of review that. And I highly recommend it.
What do you think, as an amateur golfer, obviously you've taken your handicap really low, you've played in some high pressure situations, playing the AT&T at Pebble Beach every year, the Pure Insurance Championship at Pebble Beach. What do you think is a huge takeaway that you've seen over the last couple of years being involved with UGP? More from the amateur side, a guy who, Mac joked about shooting a lot of rounds in the 80s, a bunch of us in here are like, God, I wish that was my life. Slam dunking low 80s all day. But what would you take away, or what have you taken away from UGP as an amateur golfer, as you've lowered your handicap and become quite proficient to where the student beat the master a couple weeks ago?
Let's just get that out there real quick. Like, this happened, okay? This summer, Mac comes to Jackson Hole. It doesn't matter how many times it happened. It happened once, and I'll tell the story as many times as I can. And heads up, no handicap, I beat Mac by a stroke. And I only shot one over that day, which was my lowest round. So that happened. That's what UGP.
What's a 9 handicap shooting one over?
That's UGP right there. So that happened, and I'm really proud of it. And I've been looking forward to an audience that would appreciate it. I don't do that all the time, but I will say the thing that has been, I think, fascinating to me, and I remember because I honestly thought it was a little bit of a sales pitch the first time Leo was talking to me, was like I walked into UGP and it wasn't like I was out of shape. Like I was an athlete, I surf, I snowboard, I ride horses, I do lots of things. And they did all this physical tests and mobility and stuff, and they were like, well, we actually think you need to spend more time with the physical training team than on your swing analysis. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm a 12 handicap, and I'm much fitter than most of my friends. You're telling me I need to work out? Like, this doesn't make sense. And it wasn't like, oh, you need to work out. It was like, you need to do these very specific drills, like with your hips, and this 90-90 thing where you would do this and hurt like hell for days afterwards. And I was like, I just don't see how this is going to make my golf game better, but I'll do it. And it worked. Like, I mean, literally, my hips are so much more flexible than they were 2.5 years ago. I mean, it's like the stuff that I couldn't even begin to do, I can do with ease now, like holding my little daughter on the floor. And I really believe that has allowed me to, you know, swing from inside out and really get around the ball and get a totally different shot trajectory than I ever had before. I used to always come over the top, and now I'm coming around it. And I think it's because I can get into positions that I couldn't get to before. And so that, to me, is one of the reasons why I believe so much in the kind of method to this, what sometimes can feel like madness. And that's also what I tell other people when they talk to me about UGP. I'm like, there's a real reason for having the fitness and the swing training right next to each other in the same building, because they really do complement each other. So I'd say that's from an amateur golfer standpoint, that is what I've gotten the most out of. The thing that I'm hoping that I'll get more out of and that UGP will grow, and Mac is going to laugh because every single meeting this comes up, is I think we need to work more in the middle game. You know, because the middle game is a huge part of scoring, of winning tournaments, of things that, you know, us who are really competitive really care about. And so that's something I'm constantly pushing Mac, and hopefully we will develop more and more for the members here, because I'm definitely hitting the ball better than I ever have, and on occasion I'm scoring better than I ever have, and I get a lot of joy from those days. But that's not happening as much as it should be. You know, I mean, literally, Kevin and I were hitting balls today, and he's like. You should be scratched the way you're hitting the ball now, but I'm not. No, but I'm not, because of you know, I still got to get through it mentally. So that's kind of what I think is the best thing, or the best thing for me from UGP, and then also kind of what my hopes for what I'm going to get from UGP as Matt continues to evolve his vision.
What do you think could be a way that you could start to work on the mental aspect of it?
Well, I think
Good. I love putting him on the spot, because
I'm prepared for this one, actually. No, it's actually really interesting. I find it fascinating when we're talking about, you know, what he's taken away from this the most, and as an amateur player, and it's not the golf swing. You know, in a golf instruction academy or institution that we've created here, it's how the fitness has affected his game. As an already accomplished athlete, and again, how mindset has affected. So we did do some mental training with him, leading up, competition training leading up to Pebble Beach. He had a really good event his first time around, and so within our resources, we did some good things. But that makes me really excited as to where this brand can go, from a physical standpoint, and then also from a mental standpoint. And I think that's kind of one of the biggest voids, I think, in golf instruction. So we're so consumed with improving somebody's golf swing, which leads to a bunch of thoughts and ideas and concepts, and it takes away from our natural ability to be able to perform as an athlete. Because once you have your grip on it, you know, if you move well, you should be able to move at it and then just get better, you know, in a pretty nice progression. But once you start thinking too much and having lots of thoughts about your swing, that's when you can really be in a bad spot, and golf's no longer fun. And I learned that pretty much firsthand as a junior golfer, and it led to a lot of this concept. So, but on the mindset standpoint, or mental training, we actually work with Rick Sessinghaus. He's one of the top mental coaches in the world. And so on Blake's advice, like, we need to get more involved in mental coaching, and we got, you know, deeper in with Rick, and Rick works with the UCLA men's golf team as well. He was also training the #1 amateur golfer in the world, Colin Morikawa, who played for Cal and is going to be a really nice standout PGA Tour player in the next few years. And Rick's been involved and is involved as our director of mental coaching here at UGP in Orange County and in LA. And he does events monthly here in LA, and Oseen is helping our programming alongside all of our coaches as to how we develop mental training as we're going along. So yeah, there's a lot we can do on that side of things. And you know, it's really about, the mental side isn't just like, all right, well, how do you have core strategy? It's how do you have the mindset to practice? A lot of people don't like practicing. So if you can train the mind to enjoy practice, it's going to be a lot easier to get better. You know, so I think that's a big component. So the mental side, definitely. I mean, if there's no motivation, and there's no strategy, and there's no game plan, and there's no journaling, it's very unlikely you're going to have a nice steady progression to improving at golf. And so, yeah, the mindset is the fundamental behind everything. Right.
We're going to open it up real quick for questions. If anybody has a question, I see it right there. All right.
Well, I was going to elaborate on your point about, adding to practice and adding the pressure. That I was talking with staff and Leo about the combines, where when you practice and you actually have this information coming in, right, where whatever practice you're putting into it, you can get results, feedback, that changes. And like Blake was saying about, I used to be a scratch handicap. I said, well, was there pressure like at that time when you're practicing? It's like, well, probably not. A lot of guys are much better golfers, right, when there's no pressure involved. Then all of a sudden, the lights are on, the camera's on, or whatever. It's like, hey, now we're doing a monthly combine challenge. It changes a little bit, and it sort of reflects, what you have in tournament golf. And I think without even knowing it, you guys have already tapped into that a little bit. I mean, and that can evolve into training, to whatever it is, into wedge combines, and having actual monthly challenges, like you said, where it's like, hey, now's the day, you got to put up, shut up, and it adds a little bit of pressure to. It changed the whole aspect of it.
I think on our leaderboards, you're at number 1 on all categories. So,
No.
Nico's also a USC golfer, big player. So, but no, you're 100% right. I mean, I think that gamifying, and that's what you're talking about, gamifying golf improvement, and we see that in a lot of fitness concepts today, like in Orange Theory or these different businesses that are coming out. I mean, it's crazy, the industry of like mobile gaming and how much they get people hooked on these games on their phones. And it's not, the only way is through gamifying it. Like, get to this level, go to this level, go to that level, go to this level. So taking that and applying it to golf performance and making it a game that you can get better at, that's awesome. That's definitely something that technology can provide. Like, hey, you're at level 1, 2, 3, 4, not just based off your scores, and then showing how that correlates to improvement and performance out on the golf course. Same thing on the fitness side. As you're training, actually having markers for improvement and showing how you're getting from level to level maintains retention and gets people excited about continuing to improve in their game. Because you ever seen somebody play Candy Crush? They're just like hitting the screen, almost breaking it. So they get into it. But yeah, gamifying golf improvement is definitely one of the biggest components that we're excited about innovating as we go forward, and hoping that that translates to to better scores.
How do you think the social mission aspect will help the community and the culture of UGP?
I mean, my hope is that it's really owned by everyone who's part of this ecosystem. It really is a family here. And when the staff come in and they're working hard and long hours and dealing with the constant issues of change, which any startup has, hopefully they're recognizing that it's to help not only build a great business, but to make a significant difference in the UGP in the first tee and all the kids that are benefit from that. And the same with our customers and members, that they know that their dollars aren't just going to profits and bottom line, but a very big 45% of the ownership is with this nonprofit now. So it's a very significant social enterprise in that regards, and hopefully that is a source of pride with our members when they're choosing to give their dollars to us in the world of golf.
Yes.
I have a question. I think golf is learned by a lot of people at a very young age, and we're trying to fix problems at a very much older age that we've been having for all these years. And I know you're working with the first tee, but is there programs in place? I mean, this might be cost prohibitive for a 10-year-old that's starting out, but is there programs in place where we might be able to get kids involved in at an early age and have them take this training and become really good golfers from the beginning instead of when they're 47 years old?
You can be a young kid in here, That's fine.
I
see you in here. You're like a young kid.
I'm a kid every time I come.
No, I mean, it's actually something that I got asked a lot as I was starting the company. They're like, "Oh, this is great. You're here to help the world be better, and you're doing this this golf thing, and you want to make an impact, but you're just teaching rich people how to play better golf." And I got that a lot as I was getting going. This is just you're just doing the same thing. You're pampering rich people and helping them get more fit, and that's what you do. But even from when we started the company, we were like involved with the VA. We were like, and that's what attracted Blake to the company, was like, oh man, these guys are not just trying to teach golf lessons. They are trying to get into the fabric of community, and that was a lot of sort of For me, growing up on the border in El Paso, Juarez, and seeing the things that I saw, that was a big part of my experience. And I wanted to figure out ways that, you could have fun and you could enjoy your life, and you could also make an impact, and that you could improve people's lives. And so to those conversations early on, I knew that things, I knew that if I focused on what could make it a business first, right? I mean, that eventually things would start to roll in the right direction if that's the intention. Right. And so I said, man, I mean, if I want to make this a real business, I got to go to people that have money, right, and I got to take care of them, and then I got to make that systematic, and then from there, then we can start to, start folding in programs, and we can start to have some leverage and some power to be able to do that. I didn't know that it would get magnified like this with Blake. It was the most humbling experience of my life to have that happen and say, he didn't invest saying this is going to be a first tee investment. He invested, me thinking it was purely an investment, and then after the investment was done, we sat down. He's like, this is actually going all to the first tee, and I cried like a baby that night. But it was, and I was like, man, I guess if you have the right intention, things do go right in the right direction. And so to answer your question about junior golf, I mean, we're getting there. Yeah. We got to UCLA now. We're doing this with, training, TJ doesn't pay a lot of money to come here, out there, trying to grind on the PGA Tour and do that. UCLA Kids is a subsidized program. So we're starting, with the first tee, and little by little, we definitely want to be one of the biggest leaders in junior golf development. But again, it's one of those things that, like you said, it's if we went after that first, we probably wouldn't have, a stage to stand on here. So it's something that, with the right intention, will go in the right direction.
Anybody else have any questions? Kelly, I know you got something.
No questions?
Yeah.
I think most importantly, we need a song about UGP.
Okay.
You can find a guitar, I got you.
Oh, that's weird.
I keep a jazz food in there. I would love to open up one question or comment to the staff. I honestly, from personal experience, love the entire staff of UGP. I've only had unbelievable experiences all the way through, and I think it's such a great combination of, the good things about a country club experience, but meeting a really, really, really fine line of a hard workout program, everything we love about golf, the right hospitality with the right energy and the right positivity. Any comments from our unbelievable UGP staff back there? This won't get you fired, I promise, whatever you say. More snacks.
Oh, I got a question.
So, I don't know if you said question or comments, but I've been here for like 2-3 weeks. I've always wanted to be a coach, so that's what I did my undergrad for. When I was out there on my own teaching, the more lessons I got, the more I didn't like my job. Because you're out there in the sun all day. It's in Riverside, by the way, so it's not by the coast. And I watched my mentor. I had a couple mentors out here, and I'd say like, okay, that's gonna be tough for the family to do all of that. So what Matt created is like perfect for what I walked into. Have a young family. I was thinking the same way. Like I was in Riverside, the golf community's dying out a little bit, and my heart was there, so I didn't want to leave. But I realized I need a platform to affect a bigger impact, and I want to get out of the sun. So I know I tell Matt this all the time, and I tell Bud, I just want to say thanks for creating this.
As we start to wrap this up, can we get one or a couple of maybe personal stories? Maybe get a little insight on the friendship or personal relationship between the two of you. Mentorship, a nice drunken night story, something.
Oh, we already told the best story.
Yeah, the best.
The winning of
I think the cool side is just there's just a lot of similarities. I have a lot of respect for Blake and what he's done. I think that a lot of people do. But really what's been interesting, I thought going into like the high-end golf instruction business, I was going to get, if I ever, got into, an investor and the company started to grow, I thought it would be a lot different. But having somebody like Blake is like, I mean, it's serendipitous because, you know, he's like, all right, we're gonna have our annual board meeting, and I'm going to Jackson Hole and playing golf with him, and you know, cracking an IPA open, and our work takes a couple hours, but then it's a lot of grinding after that, and he expects a lot coming back around in a 6-month period. But yeah, the work is very straightforward. He keeps things very simple, which is awesome because I tend to overcomplicate and analyze things, and he's able to rein me in and say, hey, like this is actually what matters. These are the key things to focus on. Now quit trying to skip around the work and analyze the perimeter. So it's been awesome. I mean, it's been really straightforward. He's got a young family. He's got a 3-4-year-old at home, and a newborn that's about maybe a year old. Yeah, a year old. Time's flying. But and then my daughter Sophia's 7, and my son Sevi's almost 5. I named my son Sevi. And yeah, I mean, it's been a pretty wholesome experience. You know, young families. We both like to play golf, pretty competitive, obviously, and you know, it's been just a fun time. You know, definitely we can have a glass of wine together, have a beer together, have a laugh. You know, and I'm definitely not mountain climbing with him anytime soon. He's like a mountain goat up there, like sleeping in a tent on the side of a hill. But I'll stick to the golf. But yeah, I mean, I'm very thankful, and like I said, it's been a really wholesome like experience, like hanging out with like an older brother, learning about life and about business. So I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Matt. That's sweet.
Yeah.
No, it's really nice. It's nice to hear that, you know, when you invest time in something that there's, you know, that it's appreciated. I think the thing that has been the greatest thing for me is just like not just Mac, but you know, I'm looking to several of the staff members that have been around since the beginning when I got involved, and just seeing the personal growth of the whole team has really been amazing. You know, like you know, seeing everyone, the ones that have been here since the beginning, like there's been a ton of change. I mean, it went from Mac owning 100% to kind of, you know, running it, you know, by the seat of his pants in an amazing way, to like all of a sudden we have all this, you know, financial reporting they have to do every month. There's all these different KPIs. There's, you know, strategic planning. There's, you know, a new location. There's so much change, and change is tough. And so I say that's one of the things that I've been so impressed with both Mac's leadership, but then all the team's willingness to embrace this change and to try new ideas. And so it's made a lot of fun for me. Like it's something I really enjoy doing. And I think we're just at the very, very beginning of where we're going to go. So thank you guys very much.
Who's going to win the Masters next year?
Tiger.
TJ Vogel.
There we go. That's all right. Who's going to win the
That's work to do.
What amateur group's going to win the AT&T this year? Larry Fitzgerald again.
I'd say, I mean, nobody has any questions for Blake? I mean, obviously Blake, hard to get this kind of time, so if anybody has any questions around business or anything, I mean, This is good to ask.
I'd love to hear more about journaling, Blake. Do you do it at a certain time every day? Is it structured? Is it a page long? Is it a paragraph? Do you review it every week, every other day?
Yeah, so it's typically first thing in the morning if the kids haven't woken up yet. If the kids are the ones that wake me up, which is happening more and more, our 4-year-old just like, here, Mom, you know, like 5:30 in the morning and I'm not up yet. Then it's in the evening before they go to bed. So it used to be always in the morning. I was like really disciplined. It was like I literally pushed the coffee machine, sat down, did my journaling, and then the day started until the kids started disrupting that. And that's, you know, that's life. But so now I find time typically to do it in the morning if they're not up yet, or in the evening. And usually it's half a page. It's not, you know, it's not like this long process. I think it's more like anything else. It's just it's the practice of just putting a few words down of, you know, how am I feeling? What is my intention or hopes right now? Maybe it's a short list of goals for the week. And then only on significant kind of life moments or experiences with the kids or family or friends, then it might be a longer, you know, couple pages. But I think thing that I found that has had the most benefit, and it's amazing because there's actually a documentary film that has been working on for 6 or 7 years now on Tom's, and a big part of the documentary, the filmmaker is actually asking me to read journal entries from all these years, and it's amazing how much everything that I wrote and set my intention to actually happened. Like it's phenomenal. I mean, it's kind of spooky in some ways how specific I was at 19 on certain things that happened, or at 29 when I started Tom's. And so I do think there is a lot of power in being very clear with what you want in life and writing it down and seeing it happen. So it really is like that. I mean, it's so interesting that Kelly, in doing some research on me before this, focused in on that, because it is like one of the things that I would say whenever I do get asked advice by entrepreneurs, or when I speak at colleges or business conferences, I always say that's been probably the most powerful thing in my life.
And Blake, just to clarify, it sounds like it's forward-looking.
Yes.
Unless it's about family.
Yeah. It's reflecting on family and experiences or trips or things, usually in almost real time or over the weekend. This happened, and it was so great that one story. My parents are here, mom and dad. I'll just give them a round of applause but I just thought of a journal entry that my parents were watching our kids, and my dad shared something with me this past summer, which was amazing, and I remember writing it in my journal, and that was my dad and mom get to spend a lot of time with their kids, and he said to my 3.5-year-old son, he said, Summit is his name, Summit, will you be my best friend? And Summit said, no GP, Daddy's my best friend. And it was like, when my dad told me that, it was like this, I was like, wow, like all this work I'm doing, putting into being a parent is like totally worth it. And I remember like writing that in the journal and like reflecting on what that meant. And that's the type of things that I really like to make sure I capture, so that when I am dealing with a 13-year-old punk someday, I can go back and remember that. So, yes.
Not this, but going back to the mental part of the game, on the 18th hole when you were competing with him, what was your mindset?
Yeah. I was totally in the zone that day. In all fairness, you're not a 9 handicap and shoot one over unless you're just like so in the zone you don't even think of anything. Like, come on. You said it's the first time I've won. Honestly, it was interesting because we had to start on the 3rd hole at this course in Jackson Hole. And so we're ending on the 2nd hole. And the 2nd hole is par 3 with water in the front and water to the right. And when I miss a shot, sometimes I'll cut it, and there it's in the water. So basically, I had a 1-stroke lead. I think Mac might have hit first, and he was like in the very front of the green, big green. And it's like all I had to do was hit this ball in the green, and I'm probably going to win. And so literally, I just aimed. So my thought was, I took one extra club.
It's like a documentary.
I took one extra club, and I remember it specifically.
Tomorrow night we'll be back here. We'll go shot by shot, the full 18 holes. Bring popcorn. It's about a 7-hour lecture. You're gonna love it.
How do you continue to get up? I know a lot of people have that internal drive, and do you want to keep it up? I think part of me, the reason I don't grow as much as I probably could is because I would really like to start to slow down a little bit. So how do you balance that fine line when you've been so successful, either to keep going or to slow down?
Well, I think it's a great question, and for me, it's really about spending my time on things that I feel have a much larger social return than a financial one. So I don't work day to day at Tom's anymore. I still own half the company, but we have a great CEO. I spend time with Mac. I have about 2 other companies I've invested in that I spend consistent time with on the mentoring side. I'm working on another concept in the wellness space with a friend of mine now. So, but the truth is, all that added up is still probably only really half of what I used to work when I was really going. So I'm definitely not. joke that I say I'm semi-retired with like 5 companies I'm involved in. But that's still only half of what it used to be, because I used to just work nonstop. So the other half of the time, I'm really blessed. I spend a lot of time with the kids. I rock climb a lot. I surf a lot. I do all the things that maybe I didn't do as much when I was working so much. But what keeps me excited about any type of work is when there's people who are willing to grow and learn and really get excited for your advice or mentorship. And then also that you know that the success of the business directly results in helping people who are less fortunate. And that's what gets me the most excited. Great question, thank you.
So regarding mental toughness, I couldn't agree with you any more on that. So what do you do to keep yourself mentally tough? I mean, everybody has different routines, different things that they do, but what do you think is, I mean, like, what did you do the day when you...
It's amazing how much this is staying with us.
He gets in a cold tub every morning. I know that.
I mean, that's actually true. So I've gotten very into ice baths because I feel like if you do it first thing in the morning, everything else the rest of the day is going to be better. And so if you get there, and my wife thinks it's absolutely crazy, but I do it for 3 or 4 minutes, and it's really hard to do, and then everything else in the day is easier to do. So I guess that's something for mental toughness. But I think I still have a ways to go there. I mean, that was why I've been prodding Mac, because I think that the mind is so interesting, and there's so much to learn as to how you can use the mind to, exceed, and really live to your potential. So in the game of golf, I definitely still feel like I'm at the early stages because I'm not consistently, playing as well as I'd like to. And so that's kind of what my kind of intention right now is, to really figure out how to use my mind to absolutely hit the right shots when I need to hit them, and to think about the game better too. Like, I think part of a lot of our problems with golf is like, we just look at a hole and just hit a driver, no matter, because that's just impulsively what we do, when that might be the least percentage play to do. So I'm learning.
Leo.
What is your end goal with UGP and the first tee? I mean, what would happen where you say, okay, this was worth it? Let's say it's 8 years from now. How do you envision that happening?
Yeah, so I mean, I think that there's, in any kind of startup business that has the potential for high growth, first thing we have to do is we have to get the model right. Coming down here to the OC, location number 2, vitally important. We're learning a lot of things. And then, I think, you need, 3 to 5 of these all working, learning, to when you can really turn on, the turbo boosters. And I think that one of the things that got me excited about this is, if this works in Orange County and Los Angeles, think about how it would work in Chicago or Dallas when it's raining and cold half the year, or New York City, where you don't, most people have a lot of disposable income but don't have access to go play golf, and they want to get out of their jobs and blow off some steam and hit some balls. So I think there's so many places that we can make this work once we get the model done here. And Mac and I spent a lot of time discussing, with you, Leo, and others, about why Orange County versus like going to Dallas or going to Chicago. And part of it is we really need to be hands-on with these first few locations. And we have young families, and we don't want to be traveling all the time. And so being able to drive down here and really be close to it. So my kind of vision, or what I'm at least kind of encouraging Mac to focus on, is let's really tighten up and nail down the model in the OC from the very beginning. Get the original LA location optimized, add a couple more in the general area, and then really go into the next growth mode of like, how do we really systemize this and roll it out? And if you do that, then from a financial standpoint, there's a couple different exits. There's going public. There's selling to a private equity firm, as I did with Tom's, and with that liquidity, that would have a huge windfall for the first tee, which would be really exciting. Yeah.
Any franchise opportunities yourself?
We've talked about that, and I think it's an interesting, if you can hit certain financial metrics, it could be really interesting from a franchise. The thing that I like most about potential franchises is that there's a lot of people who are maybe great college golfers, want to go pro, aren't able to go pro, maybe studied business in school, and now they're working at a country club, but they really are a business person, they have an entrepreneurial instinct. They would be a great franchise owner. And that'd be the type of person that we could even back financially, and there could be a separate company that does that. And so yeah, I think if we can get the numbers to make sense, then franchising would be probably a really strong possibility.
So going back to the expansion of your business, I know it took you 2 months to do this. Knowing that now, is there any plans to move down south to San Diego? Because there's a lot of golf courses. And that's where we're from.
Yeah, I think that's what Blake was saying too. I mean, as we roll out our next 2 to 4 locations, we're gonna do it pretty local, so that we can be hands-on with the businesses. So definitely San Diego's a great market, and kind of all around Southern California, you have a lot of golf and a lot of the demographic that fits the profile. So possible, and definitely like something we're looking at in the next few months as we see this thing take off the ground. Mostly thanks to Adam Capasso over there, but.
Not to belabor the point, but I just know how important it is to you. Can you touch
To win
on
that match?
Yeah.
We're still talking.
Tell me about the 4th hole. What was the look on Matt's face?
I'm motivated to practice already, but now it's like, yeah.
How many IPAs did he
Alright.
drink after that round?
He didn't have any. He's on the non-alcoholic beer. So.
To go just quick on the journaling piece, it was Marcus Aurelius and his personal journals, I think, that really motivated you to, again, journal and record your life in a certain way that was consistent. Number one, what did you take away from that initially? What was the catalyst to get you on the journaling path? And then what would be your best advice? I know we touched on it briefly before, but for someone who doesn't journal or who maybe hasn't explored that part of expression in their own lives, how would you suggest somebody starting on that path in a very sort of basic beginning way?
The thing that I don't know how many people have read Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, and this was written, gosh, what year? I mean, I'm bad at history. Someone help me with this. When would this have been written?
A long time.
200.
No, thousands of years ago, right?
200
Like Roman.
300
Yeah.
BC.
300.
Yeah, 300
Somewhere
BC,
in
this guy wrote, right? And I read it at a young age. And what I was amazed by it is how mundane it was. Like it was these weren't like huge epiphanies. And this kind of was what I was saying is like just writing a few words every day. It's like going to the gym. You're eventually going to be in good shape. And so I think that's probably the thing that got me started is like, don't be self-critical when you're writing, because you never know, just the practice of writing and connecting with yourself and taking a moment for yourself, that might be the thing that's having the biggest impact on your day. So it's I think the hardest thing is people who are like really perfectionist journaling, because they want each word or each sentence to really mean something. So much of what I write means nothing really in hindsight, but just the practice of doing it oftentimes leads to a thought or an idea that leads to a business or, hey Mac, what if we tried this or something with my wife? And so I think the most important thing is like, if you're interested in exploring it and never have, don't be self-critical, just like let the words flow, because some words on the page are better than nothing. It's probably like writing a song, I would think.
For sure. Yeah. Just get it.
What do you think about using videos, so doing video journaling?
Oh, I don't know.
This might be kind of
I've been doing one thing since 15. Like, I think I'm just going to stick to it. Yeah, no, it would be cool.
30 years from now or something?
Or cool or creepy, but yeah.
The man on the moon.
Isn't that Instagram?
Yeah.
And back to the journaling, because, I explored journaling for a while too when I was playing full time, but there's days where it's like, okay, I woke up, I practiced for 8 hours, and I went to sleep.
Yeah.
Like, what do I write?
Yeah.
I feel like I started inventing things that weren't necessarily there. Like, oh man, today was a tough day of practice. It was cool. And I'm like, I kind of got finished, and I did it for probably a year consistently, and I'd go back, but I just started losing a little bit of interest because I would run out of ideas because it's such a repetitive motion every single day. Wake up, do this, go practice, come back. You know, when I played tournaments, it was a little different because
Sure, there's more to unpack.
You played with and whatever exactly. So how do you know, on those days, you just kind of have a little bit of information, a little less information.
Yeah, I think it's just there's mundane days in life. There's mundane days in the journal, but it's kind of just a practice, and maybe that's something that I do find that a compliment to a journal is having any type of daily meditation to read or something, because then it gives you something to reflect on. So whether if you're religious, there's reading a verse in the Bible every day, or if you're not religious, reading some type of book that has philosophical text. That can help as well. But yeah, there's lots of days where it's like, kids woke up early, had some coffee, going to Tom's, and I hope I get home before dinner so I don't get in trouble. Yeah.
Is there any other questions?
I just want to add to that. I'm certainly not on the level of success as Blake, but I do journal, and one thing that helped me do that was the 5-minute journal from Amazon.com. $20. Best decision ever. But you do
It's
it,
great, yeah, I know it.
You do it morning, and it sets your intention for the day. It's 3 things that would make this day great, or something like that. And then at the end, you reflect on what happened during the day. So it's a great way to just jot down things really quickly, especially if you're a perfectionist and you don't want to hit on yourself too much and make it too flowery. It's just bullet points. That's cool.
Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. And you know what? I think I'm so glad you shared that at the end too, because I can wrap this whole thing up with a tie to the 5-minute journal. So I was with a friend of mine. He's a golfer in Scottsdale. He was on a trip to Scotland this year. He knows I journal a lot. He said, "Hey, I'm going to start journaling. I'm going to try this out." And he got the 5-minute journal from Amazon. And he was literally, this is 100% true story. You guys might know, his name's Ian. He started a company called Spiritual Gangster. I don't know if you know this company. But Ian told me that he got the journal, and he was in Scotland, first time to play, and it said, "What would make this day great?" And he said, "Making a hole-in-one." He had his first hole-in-one that year. Swear to God. He sent me the picture of the journal entry, the picture of the ball in the hole, picture of him celebrating. And he's like, "This stuff works." So, there you go.
That's fantastic. Anybody else have any questions? No, thank you so much for coming. I don't know if Mac has anything he wants to say to wrap this up.
Well, I just want to say thank you all for coming, and thanks to the UGP team for killing it as usual, setting up this whole event for us and hosting Blake for his first time down here. And thanks to you guys, honestly, like 2 really accomplished people taking your time. I know I'm not paying you anything. And
We're just proud of you. We just love you
no,
guys.
but it means a lot. 2 good friends, and that you guys are serious personalities out there, and that you would take the time to come and join us up here on the stage. It really does mean a lot. So thank you guys.
Let's party.
Let's do it.
How about another round of applause for Blake and for Matt and Jessica. Thank you guys for listening. Massive thanks to the staff at UGP. Have a great night.